Welcome to Somerset Showcase. Today we are going to be talking about a very serious topic with Somerset Veterans Agent Joshua Rancourt, which is about veteran suicide. And Josh, I had just noticed that in some of your speeches you've made at some of the ceremonies during Veterans Days that you talked about this subject, and it seemed like it was something that was very important to you. Can you tell me about that?
Sure, George. First off, thank you for having me back. It is a serious subject, right? Because we need to care for our veterans first and foremost, right? So part of my job is providing the options to veterans and how they can best help themselves. Thinking about veteran suicide, I have lost a few friends to that. So it's something that, I take fairly personal when it happens. And it's something that shouldn't happen because there is care out there for veterans. And sometimes these veterans don't know what care is there. So that's part of the issue and the struggle that we see as veterans, especially when you see combat veterans that take their own lives. We really need to make sure that they know how to get the help when they need it most.
Can you tell me about your personal experiences with this? Is that something you can talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my old soldiers, Frederico Baker, we didn't always get along right at the beginning, but we became pretty good friends towards the end of my service. So I got out, he was still in, and he ended up transferring over to Korea to do a service rotation in Korea. And he unfortunately took his own life in 2015 on Veterans Day. And that one was really hard because I had just also lost a different friend to a car accident not even a month prior. So that one was very, very difficult to hear. And because he was such a good kid, so energetic, so happy all the time, and it just goes to show you never know what people are truly dealing with.
Now, what are some of the common causes of this? What they see when they're in action must be very difficult to see.
Yeah, so I do think everybody's a little different. So some people internalize and blame themselves, and sometimes just people don't know how to deal with their post-traumatic stress disorder. They don't know how to deal with the things that they've been through in combat, or even back stateside, you have family issues, or you have substance abuse issues that just seem overwhelming, and you don't know how to escape it, and unfortunately people choose the wrong path. It all stems from some form of like mental health issue that is happening with them. And that's the common thread that I've seen, whether it be PTSD, the stateside issues, family relationships. It just varies, but a lot of it stems from mental health.
And what can be done about this? And are we doing enough to address this in the country?
That's a good question. I can't say if we're specifically doing enough. Every veteran will tell you, I don't think we are. But there are a lot of options out there. There's a lot of great organizations that are working to help combat this issue and raise awareness and make sure that veterans know where to go when they finally hit that breaking point where they feel like there is no escape. So with that, no, we're not doing enough, and making people aware of their benefits and what they can and can't do. That's the primary issue, and knowing when somebody is going to maybe attempt suicide, that's very hard to do. So most people don't come out and tell you I'm going to do it. So it does make it hard to see some of the warning signs.
So it sounds like counseling services would be very important as far as
Yeah,
helping these veterans.
yeah. So the VA itself came out in 2020 with the Comprehensive Prevention, Access to Care, and Training Act, so Compact Act for short. What this does is allow any veteran who had served at least 2 years on active duty or at least spent 100 days in some form of combat zone or are a victim of MST, which is military sexual trauma, to get immediate emergency care at a VA facility or a non-VA facility, and the VA would help pay. And what that entails is 30 days of in-treatment and 90 days of outpatient treatment. So there are options out there for veterans, but I mean there is criteria that meets it. It's not just every veteran that has ever served can just go do it. There are certain criteria that they will have to meet for that benefit. But it does greatly open the door for combat vets who don't use the VA for their medical care, and and they find themselves at a time where they don't know what to do.
Now, as a veteran service officer, you can help people to find these services.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Being in Somerset, we're sort of fortunate enough that we don't have a lot of these cases. Not that they don't happen, but it doesn't mean I don't see it fairly often. I see a lot more of it online. And it makes me sad to see them online. I think in Massachusetts we're fortunate enough to have veteran service officers in every community that can help people get the care that they need. A lot of states don't have that. So some of these other states, these veterans don't know where to turn, and making sure that they know where to go. That's the important part. We're lucky that we have VSOs.
And I was looking at the Veterans Administration site online, and the numbers kind of blow you away when you look at them. It's the latest statistics they had were from 2022, but it was over 6,000 veterans that year who took their lives, and they broke it down into 7 of the suicides per day were veterans who received Veterans Health Administration care, and 10.6 of them were among other veterans. So it sounds like getting care does help.
Well, yeah, I mean, with anything that you're going through in life, having the right care helps. Obviously, they can't prevent everything, but I mean, if we look at the statistics of just veterans in general, we make up, such a small percentage of the population in the United States. Roughly 18 million veterans in a country that's 340 million. It's a very small percentage. It's roughly about 5%, in between 5 and 6%. The numbers change year after year, but we look at how many of our suicides are veterans, and it's roughly, like you said, in the 6,000s, and it's been roughly 6,000 for past 20 years. So you might see like some of these organizations 22 a day, right? And I think the number that you said was roughly about 18. The 22 a day represents more of a real number because some of these suicides go not reported that they're a veteran, or they served in the National Guard and they don't have a technical federal status as a veteran or something like that. So the number is usually higher, and that doesn't take into consideration people with substance abuse that overdose, and that's sort of a form of suicide. It may not be intentional, but it's definitely an unnecessary death. And then you have people that get into car accidents where they're out drunk driving. I recently just had a friend pass away from that. And it's sad when you see those, because maybe he wouldn't be out drinking if he was had more care, or I don't know what his exact story was.
We go back to the mental health issues that you
Yeah,
talked about,
yeah.
right?
I mean, a substance abuse issue is a mental health issue. So I mean, there are more out there than what the information says.
I mean, so you talked about the last 20 years. I mean, and obviously our most recent wars were in the Middle East. Is this mostly those veterans, or does it not discriminate? Is it any war? I mean,
So yes and no. The general age is slowly starting to lower. So it's going from where we saw more Vietnam vets. It's slowly becoming more and more of the global war on terror vets. So we're starting to see that number trend down more towards the lower age brackets. As most suicides are typically white men who are fairly younger that decide to take their own lives. I mean, it's a statistic that's slowly trending in that direction for veterans as well. And I think that's partly due to the fact that, if you join the military at a later age, you've had life experiences, right? Versus an 18-year-old kid getting deployed and then going through going through a deployment and facing the challenges that they do there. I think that, when you're older, you understand and you adapt a little bit easier than maybe young people do, and they don't know how to, address the issues when they get back.
yeah, that seems to make sense. I mean, you're just coming out of high school, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was 17 when I enlisted, and for me personally, like, I had a lot of trouble when I first got out of the Army. I did. Luckily, I figured myself out and got myself pointed back in the right direction. It doesn't mean I didn't have a hard time. And sometimes, that's where people tend to do it. They start having a hard time when they get out and they don't know how to make the transition into something better.
Yeah. Did you get help from somewhere, or you?
I sort of removed myself from the situations I was putting myself in. Heavily drinking, and I just wasn't making good decisions necessarily. And then I realized that where I was heading, and I realized that's not where I wanted to be in life.
And what did you do in the Army? Right?
I was a military police officer. So we deployed in 2007 to 2009 to Iraq. And when we got back, you jump right back into being a police officer. So you go into the domestic violences, you go into, the assaults. I saw a lot of suicides while I was in as a responding officer. And, that takes a lot toll on you too. You see a lot of things just being day to day as a police officer as well. On top of your deployment, it's like we never really stopped,
I did years ago, and I was looking online and recently, and I couldn't find anything for it as I was researching for our interview. But somebody had brought up something to me about starting a camp in Tennessee to help veterans who were going through mental health issues. Do you know anything about that? Did that ever pick up any steam?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I don't even know really how to reference
Okay.
that,
This was years ago, and someone brought it up to me. And
there's a lot. There's a lot of places. But
it showed
like
that I mean, even years ago, people were looking at this as a big problem. And
correct. It really started. I think the probably like 2015 or so. It really kind of started becoming hot on everybody's radar, and people started picking it up. And then you started getting some of these organizations that really started putting it out there, and that's kind of when this the information and the changes started to occur on the VA for the better, for veterans. There's a organization called Mission 22, referencing 22 a day. veterans that take their own lives. That kind of sprung up and took off. Here in Massachusetts, we have an organization called 22 Mohawks. That continue to spread, the information about veteran suicide. They do a lot of other things too. They take people on retreats. They do parachuting retreats. They help connect veterans with like service animals. So it's a great organization. It's located out of Worcester.
Okay.
So they're fantastic, and I see all the great things that they're doing, and it's great to see. A local organization too. Even in Swansea, the Swansea VFW, they last year they started doing a 5K for veteran suicide awareness.
Okay.
And they're going to be redoing it again this year on September 27th, I believe. So there's a lot of good things out there, that to come.
I mean, is there anything going on with the federal government as far as putting more money into this, or start?
Yeah, the federal government right now, I don't know. The VA is going through a lot of changes right now with manpower reduction. So it's going to be interesting to see if, how that shapes out. But that Compact Act that I had talked about, that is the primary driver for the VA to help veterans get immediate care if they find themselves in that situation. But the VA has also expanded VA healthcare access to millions of veterans through the PACT Act, which allowed more veterans to just get VA healthcare in general. And being in Boston and Providence, we have one of the best VA healthcare systems in the country. So in my own personal experience, I've gone through their mental health department. I've gone through my own share of that as well, and I have nothing but good things to say about the VA, and I wish more people would use it.
Yeah, I know my father used it for healthcare.
Yeah, that's great. And it's out there. If somebody wants it, come see me, and if they qualify, I can get them signed up immediately. It's a simple form, really, to fill out. If you serve at least 2 years of active duty, you automatically qualify. You may have copays if you don't have VA service-connected disability, but the copays are fairly minimal. You can get pretty much everything that are there. Prescriptions, hearing aids, glasses. It's the largest healthcare system in our country. And if people aren't using it, I wish more would.
And there are hotlines that are dedicated to veteran suicide as well.
There are. The VA has its own hotline. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but the VA has its own hotline that, you can call it and connect and get emergency, talk to somebody immediately. But they'll most likely direct you towards an emergency care. So whether it's a VA hospital emergency room or a non-VA hospital emergency room. And then again, that's where that Compact Act comes into play. That's where they'll direct you to get that immediate care.
Okay. So thanks for coming in and,
absolutely.
and talking to us about that. Is there anything else you'd like to get across as far as this subject goes?
I'm always willing to help somebody too. If they don't have transportation or something like that, we can do our best to get somebody transportation to get that care too. It's not just call me and I tell you to go somewhere. We will try and help you as best as we can in our office, and and it doesn't matter if there's a Somerset veteran or Swansea veteran or Dayton. I'll help them get to where they need to go.
Okay. All right, we've been talking with Somerset Veteran Service Officer Joshua Rancourt about veteran suicide. We will see you next time on Somerset Showcase.